and it looks like people are coming in. We're up to 13.
Lamar, we're gonna give it a few minutes to let just folks filter in, and then we'll start introducing you.
Sounds good.
Hey, Mark, it's good to see you.
Hello, how's it going?
Good, I love your background.
Oh, thanks. I've been doing all kinds of different Christmassy kind of backgrounds.
What
kind
city?
of
Is that Anheuser-Busch or where is it?
Yeah, that's the brewery lights. Yeah. I'm kind of noted for having like almost a different background every day recently. Everybody at work's been enjoying it.
I like the ways to be creative in the midst of not being able to see each other. It's really cool.
I'll tell you what, I feel like I talk to people more now than I did when I was in the office every day. Sometimes at the end of the day, I just don't want to talk to anybody anymore.
I feel that way, but I feel like the conversation is more meaningful now. I feel like we had a lot of dead air in meetings in person, and here people don't want like that awkward silence, so they're filling it in. So that's been pretty cool. Hey, Brett.
Brett!
Hello, how are
Gee,
you?
Brett. Oh my
How is
gosh, my
everyone?
hair's so long. My husband was telling me the other day, your hair's getting so long. I was like, what? Because I don't know what's going on.
I'm lucky I live with my barber, so I'm able to keep it short.
I gave my husband a mohawk this summer. It was kind of an accident. And then I was just like, we're just going to go with it. Because there's kind of no coming back from my error. I had way too, I guess, like small a number guard. And I did a pretty big swipe. And then I was like, mohawk for you. 48's not too late to start your punk rock life now, you know?
Never too late.
No.
And you're never too old.
I had put up a STLX logo on the monitor behind me. I was like, I'm so clever with my branding, except I forgot the screen fell asleep. So that was a fail. Nailed it. I tried.
A for effort.
Thank you, Martha. Okay, so it's like 6:07. I feel like we should just roll with it, and then we can let folks in as they turn up.
All right, can you let people in as I'm sharing?
Yes, I'm on it.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the St. Louis User Experience Group Meetup. We meet every month. Thanks for coming. We're going to ask you to mute your session until we get to question and answer portions. Please don't record our speakers. It's their material and not ours, so we don't want to share out anything they're not ready to share. If you need assistance or have a question, the chat's always open, and either Holly or I will get to you. So my name is Al Lopez, and I do user experience in the St. Louis area, and that is the co-president. Holly, you would like to introduce yourself? We can't hear you. As you can see, we're really good at this by now.
Someday, me and the mute button are going to be friends. I am Holly Schroeder. I'm Al's sidekick and co-president.
The funny thing is, Holly and I teach together, and when we're teaching, she does the same thing with the mute. And
Yeah, I still haven't figured I still hang up on people with my iPhone. So
the students don't say anything, so I have to yell, Holly, 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 and she doesn't. Yeah. So, anyways, so
consistent.
upcoming events, then our wonderful presentation, and we will have a question and answer portion at the end. Okay, so upcoming events. Holly, if you can.
Oh, I got distracted by the chat because there was some sort of hint. Okay, upcoming events. In January, we have the fantastic Dan Joya, not to be confused with the local Joya's Sandwiches on the Hill. Different branch of the Joyas. He's, I think, like Chicago, Denver, not totally sure where he actually is. He's kind of a Carmen San Diego, but he is a service and interaction designer, and he's got a really fantastic broad understanding of service design, and he's going to come share with us on Thursday, January 28th. And then in February, Amanda Andrews, who is a dynamo of all things. She's a business anthropologist, a research and innovation consultant, and a product manager. She is going to talk about consulting strategy for researchers. We are going to be mixing things up a little bit going forward. Our meetup night is probably going to be on Tuesdays more often. So if you have it in your head that meetup night's Thursday night, just note that starting in February, it'll more likely be on Tuesdays.
And we also have a surprise. We have a design critique session. Justin Rand, who spoke at our last meetup, has agreed to do, I think, a bi-weekly session. So we'll post those meetups soon, and that will actually be during the workday. So if you want to have lunch with us, if you're someone that it's hard to come to an after work hours meetup, that would be great. And we'll be doing the design critique processes. And if you have work that you want critiqued, bring that, because we'll be going over it.
Yep, so lots of really awesome stuff coming up in the new year.
And so now it is time for us to introduce Lamar, someone I am very excited to hear speak. I've gotten to see Lamar's career go from working for corporate to going to being the wonderful entrepreneur that he is right now. And that's been so exciting to see. So Lamar Woods is the founder of SoHeart, which is an addiction recovery company focused on healing families and on winning the war against addiction through technology. So Lamar Woods, strong tech professional entrepreneur, is experienced in growing from ideas to app store releases. He's developed products at some of the leading tech companies around St. Louis, and most recently, where I met Lamar at, was Worldwide Technology. So I will stop sharing now and take it away, Lamar. Also, I bought my shirt. I just forgot to wear it. Just want to say that.
All right. It's all right. Thank you for that intro. Thank you for that intro. And thank you everyone for coming, for sure. Can everyone hear me all right?
Yes.
Yes? Awesome. Awesome. Well, if we're ready to get going, then I will share my screen and we'll get this thing going. Host has disabled screen sharing.
1 second. Ollie, can you enable the screen sharing?
Okay, try now.
There we go.
Zoom likes me today.
Nice. Can everyone see my calm, serene, nighttime mountain desktop?
We can.
Can. There's a little bit of feedback when you talk. Do you have multiple mics on?
No, not that I know of.
It's okay. Don't worry about it too much.
You
Yeah.
probably, can you try muting yourself? Because that's what it probably is.
Wouldn't that, then he can't talk.
Oh, no. I mean, I'm sorry, like muting the sound on your computer, not muting yourself on Zoom.
Putting the volume down. Yeah.
Makes sense.
Thanks for the assist, Martha.
How is that? Give me a thumbs up because I can't hear you,
Perfect.
or a thumbs down.
Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. That works. Cool. So let's go ahead and get this thing rolling. Thanks everybody for coming. This presentation is called Road to Heart. It is Entrepreneurship in UX and the SoHeart Experience. I am Lamar Woods, and as you can see, I've got a little teaser of my app that I've been working on a lot called SoHeart. We'll get into a bit more what that is and how you guys can create your own impact as designers. But before I get into all that, let's just get this thing rolling. So what we're going to be talking about today is 1, who I am, 2, the overlap between UX and entrepreneurship, 3, a 5-step checklist so that you can create your own impact. Then we're going to move into exactly how I'm creating impact at my organization, SoHeart. And then we're going to wrap you guys up with some free resources so you guys can go out there and start creating faster. All right. So you see me here, but who am I? I am a tech entrepreneur. I am a content creator. And I am also, as you can tell from the bottom right corner, I am a freedom dragon. Okay. I called myself Dragon one day, and I believe that my purpose is to help people attain freedom. And I help people attain freedom from addiction through my work at SoHeart, and I help people attain freedom, financial freedom, through the content that I produce online. Now that we spoke on exactly who I am, we'll talk about what the overlap is between UX and entrepreneurship. It's very interesting to me, so I'm glad to share this with you. Both UXers and entrepreneurs do this specific action, and this is the strongest overlap between UX and entrepreneurship in my mind. Both UXers and entrepreneurs immerse themselves into the problem, into the context, into the feelings of their customers / users, right? So at a base level, the largest overlap I feel between UXers and entrepreneurs is the fact that you both are immersing yourselves into the worlds of the users, into the world of the people who you're trying to create a solution for. And being proficient in either means that you have to understand fully your customers or users. Now, depending on what company we're talking about and depending on what technology we're speaking on, the customer and the user could be the exact same person. But to make things a little bit more simple, we're just going to say when I'm referring to an entrepreneur, that person or that group will be considered a customer. And if we're talking about a UXer, then we're going to talk about, or a designer, then we're going to talk about the user being the person who you fully understand. But in a lot of situations, those are the exact same people. So you can just think of them as interchangeable for the rest of this conversation, right? And I've got a nice little Venn diagram here that just brings up, you know, how the intersection between what a user needs and what a business needs is the value that UXers bring. And every great entrepreneur has to think from this same context. Every great entrepreneur has to understand that my business needs these things. My business needs to make money. It needs to acquire users. It needs to do X, Y, and Z. But you need to look at the intersection between what your business needs and what your customers needs. And that is where solutions come. That's where products and great services lie. And as an entrepreneur, you will have to do a lot of focus on this, very similar to what a UXer does, right? So I believe the reason why not many people speak on how close being a user experience designer and being an entrepreneur are, I believe nobody's really talking about that, because there are just so many jobs out there for designers, for UXers, that thinking about the possibilities of being an entrepreneur is really just blown out of the water. It's almost the same with a lot of the tech crowd. There are so many high-paying jobs popping up more and more that you don't even have the time to think about entrepreneurship because you've got guaranteed money right here and right now. And the field's only getting larger. There are only becoming more and more jobs, and you're becoming more and more important as the days go by. So now I want to speak on a couple of entrepreneurs that are designers so that you can see that these people do exist. Your people do exist in the wild as entrepreneurs. And so I'll give these two examples here. Joe from Airbnb, trained in college as a designer, came out and then eventually created Airbnb. He wanted to become an entrepreneur, moved to California, and was essentially broke and trying to figure out how he was going to pay his rent. And then boom, why don't we pull out an airbed? And next thing you know, the entire company and the story evolved. And we'll probably get into that a little bit later. And feel free to ask questions later about that also. But that is Joe. And what we've got also here is Neil of Warby Parker, also a designer by trade. Both of these entrepreneurs have created huge national brands and are great examples for anyone in the design space to follow. So, moving on. UXers, I believe, are in the best spot to break into tech entrepreneurship. That spot has shifted from developers. Now, I'll get into the specifics of why exactly I believe this, but simply put, I believe that user experience designers or designers of any sort are in a very key position today and have the unique ability to build software consulting businesses where businesses come to you for their app or for their website needs. And I believe you guys are in a better position than the coders that work at your same jobs. And I will explain further. So with most problems in the world already being solved, the differentiator between most software is the marketing and the experience design. The packaging and the flow of the technology is the major differentiator these days. It used to be that if you wanted to communicate with someone online, there were only one to three choices. But today, you can communicate online in 50 plus applications. And the same goes for most of the problems out there. Most hard problems have been solved, right? Software is becoming commoditized by the day. A developer can create the next Facebook, but it wouldn't matter. A designer could create the next Facebook and understand how to package it differently because of this specific design training that you have, because of the specific way you think in your 9-to-5s, because of the specific ways you were trained to think, you have an upper hand of sorts. So another reason why designers are in a key position, you guys are in a key position to build software consulting companies or just tech businesses in general, is because you used to need to be a developer to create software. Today, we have, if you look at this graphic over here, we got WordPress, we got Squarespace, we got Wix, we've even got, I mean, this is just, a couple, this is just 3 of them. We've got Webflow, we've got, we've got at least 6 different app and website builders. So creating an app is not the difficult portion. It's making people care about the app that's difficult these days. It's grabbing attention that's important these days, right? And you guys can do that. You guys already have an understanding of a couple of things that, quite frankly, some developers don't. And let's get into those. Firstly, marketing, packaging is extremely extremely important. And as designers, you guys are already trained to think, how does this word, how does this design, how does this aspect, how does this creation that I'm bringing into the world, how does that affect the perception on the other side? How do they feel when they see this? What do they think when they see this? That's not something developers do. We as developers, and I'm saying we because I literally just became an entrepreneur, but I was in the cubicles working on software 100% of the time just a second ago. We are not trained to be empathetic. Like we're here to solve a problem and we're solving it through code. Whereas designers have a different path, have a different group of skills that they use. And I believe those skills give you a leg up in marketing, even though your job is not being a marketer. Also, outside of just the fact that you think differently, there's also your ability to design information, your ability to design graphics, infographics, maps, diagrams, pitch decks. These things are things that a developer would have to pay a designer to do. A company would have to pay a designer to put together a nice looking graphic, like the intro slide that I have. I had to have someone create that intro slide for me, and I've updated it. I've updated over time, but I had to have someone create a good looking design for me because I did not have an eye for design. A leg up for every designer over just about every developer that is untrained in design. Now that you guys understand how designers are in a key position to be able to create these software businesses, these consulting businesses for small businesses. If you understand that you now are in a great spot, now you need to understand, okay, well, what do I do with that? What are a couple things that I can do to just sort of get started if I decide entrepreneurship is for me? So let's get into 5 things that you need to do to start making impact. Firstly, find a problem. The most important part of every company is the problem that that company solves. Every single company is really just a group of people, a product or a service wrapped around a problem. Just wrapped around a problem. It's just an organization wrapped around a problem or a problem set. That is what businesses are. And if you can find the right problem, then you have a business. You have a viable business that you can go after as long as you have a problem and you can solve that in a repeatable way. So if you're struggling to really come up with a sort of problem that works for you, what you could do is you could think, well, when have I been inconvenienced lately? Is there anything that piques my interest? Is there any field, group of people, situation that I'd like to be around or that I'd like to get more experience with, that I'd like to, scratch an itch of curiosity on, These things will give you a problem, and the problem is the first step. It's the most important part of every business. What problem or group of problems do you solve? Next, once you have a problem, you need to find a solution. You need to take that problem and ask yourself, how have other people solved this? And if that doesn't become apparent to you, let's say that you've got some problem that hasn't been tackled before, even though that's not very likely in today's climate, as I said already. Assume that you have your problem and ask yourself, if my fairy godmother came down and waved her magic wand at me, what exactly would happen to my problem? Let's assume that the problem is your dog barks in the morning. If your fairy godmother came down and waved her wand, what would happen in the morning when your dog normally wakes up and starts barking? It could be anything, right? But having that problem and having that solution in mind is, of course, the first step. And we'll come up with a fictitious problem and solution here in a second. But once you have that, you need to test that problem and solution combination. And preferably, you want to test that problem solution combination by getting customers. If someone will pay for your idea, if someone will pay for your solution, then you know that you have a real one. You know that you have a real problem. Excuse me. You know that you have a real problem and a real solution if someone will pay you to solve their problem. So let's go back to, let's create a fake scenario here. Your dog barks in the morning and it's very, very annoying. You come up with a potential solution. Let's say that a chew toy, a ball, choppers in from the ceiling once every morning at 5 a.m. sharp, right when the dog would start barking. Do you know whether or not you have a good business? I mean, it seems like an all right idea. Dogs like toys. They might shut up if you give them a toy. You know, I like helicopters. It sounds cool. The way you know whether or not your idea is worth anything, whether or not it has any merit, is whether or not you can take that problem solution combination into the market and produce positive results. Meaning someone will take out their credit card, someone will take out their cash, and they will give it to you. That is the only true validation in this world that you are onto something. All right. So just to go over it, find a problem, find a solution, and then test that problem solution combination. Right? Moving on to number 4. You need to reiterate your problem / solution until you know that you have the right problem and the right solution. As I said in the last slide, you will know whether or not you have a good combination when you have customers, when you have someone validating with their money, with their time, with their resources, that you are solving a problem for them. You will know that you're onto something. And for most businesses, that does not happen on the first shot. As in, I've come up with the problem. The dog barks in the morning. I've got the ball that choppers in the morning, right? Maybe what you realize is once the ball starts to fly around, the dog barks more. It's a negative solution. It goes nowhere. You know, maybe what you realize is the problem isn't that the dog was barking. The problem was the dog needed to go outside. And so what you really needed was just a doggy door. By taking the idea, the problem solution combination into the market using a product or service, you are able to test whether or not you're onto something. And what you need to do is you need to reiterate on that until you feel like you've got a good amount of customers, until you feel like the amount of people you bring in, a good percentage of them pay for your service. Until you feel like a good enough amount of people are paying for your service or paying for your product, you need to stay in this iteration loop. You need to worry about improving your product or service before you do anything else. Now, using this iteration, what you're able to do is you're able to improve your product, service over time. So you should have already validated that you were onto something. But when you first create a product, when you first create a service, there's no way that you're going to be executing on that as well as you will be your 3rd, 4th, 5th year in. Most people don't get into business because they feel like business is too much. They feel like it's too hard to create a product. It's too hard to create a service or an organization that does these great things. But what you need to focus on is just getting something going. You just need to start. And you need to start small. And yeah, your chew toy is going to be made out of wiffle ball bat and you know, the toy helicopter that your son broke last week, and so you took the propeller off of that. But over time, over the course of time, as you start to get your sales, as you start to get traction, you can improve and actually become that company that you want to be. To go back to Airbnb, they were selling airbeds. They needed to get their rent. They pulled out a couple airbeds and hosted a couple people in their homes. And what they realized was, okay, this was cool. It worked for us, but not that many people are actually signing up for the service. Turns out not that many people want to sleep on a stranger's airbed in their living room. So what they do, they took something that worked a little bit and they tweaked it. They reiterated on it until they felt like they had the right problem solution fit. The problem they had was right. People need money for wherever they live. They want to be able to bring income from whatever that residence is, but they didn't quite have the solution. Not many people wanted to be on airbeds. So what they did was they said, well, maybe if we add breakfast, it became airbed and breakfast, right? And so they did that for a while, got a little bit more traction, but realized it's still not quite hitting. It's still not quite hitting. Then at a certain point, people started to say, oh, well, I've actually got a full room over here, full real bed. I might serve breakfast sometimes, but maybe not. But I've got a full room or I've got a full house. And what they realized was this was the gold here. They did not plan on having full houses, full condos, full rooms being rented out, but it worked. It worked, and air, bed, and breakfast ended up being an entire outsourcing of the entire hotel industry. Like, it grew from this small idea over time through their reiteration. It grew into what it is today. Massive company, IPO'd recently, doing well in a lot of respects. If we can learn from what they did, then just take these 5 steps, find a problem, find a solution, test that, reiterate until it's really good, and then improve your small, inexperienced product or service over time. All right, so let's figure out exactly how I'm doing this at SoHeart. So at SoHeart, I'm working on a recovery company, and our recovery company also produces software that helps people and families that are struggling with addiction, right? So you might be asking yourself, on a deeper level, what exactly is it? What exactly is SoHeart? We're a St. Louis-based startup. We're going after the opioid epidemic. Before the pandemic, there was already an epidemic, and that epidemic was the addiction problem. America was going through it. And now because I already had experience with it with my brother, I decided that I wanted to go into this. I decided that this problem was large enough for me to get excited about helping other people, and I was connected enough to it to want to actually jump in, to actually want to dive right in. So just a quick couple facts for you. 130 plus people died every single day from opioid overdoses. And this is the 2019 numbers. And the numbers actually have been rising every single year. 2 million people misuse prescriptions. 800,000 people used heroin. Like, the addiction problem is massive, and it is unsolved. Even with all of the rehab clinics we have, rehab counselors out there, addiction counselors out there, the huge slew of NA and AA groups that are out there, the problem is alive and the problem is well, and we are here to fight that. We are here to bring a real solution into the world, inspired by my brother's 10+ year struggle with addiction. So SoHeart The app is very exciting to me. We have the first addiction recovery app to use dating technology to find people support for recovery. So we use dating technology to take people who maybe missed their sponsor. Maybe they got into a spat with their sponsor. Maybe their sponsor moved to another state and said, I can't support you anymore. Maybe you were leaning on your brother or sister or mom and they got fed up with you because of something you did. Having one person as your support system, no matter what your addiction is a faulty system. That person will be tired eventually. That person will be busy eventually. And what we want to do at SoHeart is we want to, instead of having these specific points of support, is we want to turn these specific lifelines, as I'll call them, which would be like peers, family, counselors. And we want to layer that support. We want to connect these people so that we have a web of support so that you cannot fall through the cracks, so that people cannot follow through the cracks. All right. Our mission statement is connecting our people, aiding our champions, and saving our lives. Like I said, connecting those lifelines, creating a web of support, right? Using our champions, the people who care enough to spend time with you, the people who care enough to talk to you when you're having a rough day, to sponsor you, to drive you to that appointment. We want to aid them. We want to help them do what they're doing even better. And ultimately, we want to save lives. Very quickly here, our vision statement is we exist to courageously bring freedom. Going back to the freedom from before, we exist to courageously bring freedom to all families struggling with addiction, right? So now you understand what SoHeart is. You might be asking, how did I get here? Like, how did I end up running a tech business? Man, really, this is my first product company I've ever run. So I believe it's interesting to speak on how people got to where they are. And to really answer the question of how I got here, to be honest, I failed. And that landed me to right where I am. I was working on a software consulting company. I've actually been trying to break free, I guess you could say. I've been trying to become a full-time entrepreneur for about 7 years. And that's taken me from one thing I've tried to the next. And a bunch of these failures sort of added up. But the last failure before SoHeart was I had created a software consulting company. And I was working in that software consulting company, but I was not getting clients. My deal flow was off or non-existent. To be more frank about it, to be Frank and not Bob, as I say sometimes, my deal flow was non-existent. And so I had to end up shutting that business down. But before then, I realized, hey, if you're struggling in a consulting business, and this is good for anyone who's thinking about getting into the consulting business, if you're struggling with deal flow, the tried and true method for getting rid of that issue is to go and do free or very cheap work for someone. So basically, you go to someone who needs your services, do the work for them for free, and add that to your portfolio so that you can get, one, the referral from a happy customer, and two, a more polished and professional looking portfolio so that you can build trust when that next person comes by. What I decided was, that's really not me. I could go and I could build a ton of free work. I could do a ton of things for free. And I actually did a ton. I was doing about 8 different things at once, including my 9-to-5 and working with multiple organizations. I had all kinds of irons in the fire. But as soon as I reached this point where I realized in order to grow the consulting business, I had to go do some free consulting. I had to go build products for free. I decided, well, let me take a step back. I created this software consulting business so that one day I would have the ability, I would have the freedom, the cash flow to pour those profits into my own product idea. As a developer, and most likely as a designer, you end up coming up with different ideas, different products, different services, different things that you could do. And you're busy. You just don't have the time to actually create that product or create that service. And I've always wanted to have my own. Ever since the first job I got right out of college, I got hired at a software consulting company that quickly transitioned into a product company, and I was amazed. I was like, whoa, this guy doesn't have to, this guy is in my boss. This guy doesn't have to answer to that many people. He gets up, I mean, he's working all the time. His eyes are bloodshot red all the time, but this man is free. This man is free and has got his life together. This is exactly what I want. And I knew this a long time ago. But you know, before I get into a major tangent here, I failed. That failure made me realize that I needed to do some free work. I needed to build something before people would come to me and trust me for building things. And so I decided to put the software consulting on the side, you know, put it down for a while and start building my product now. And then I thought, what is a problem that is big enough for me to be excited in, and it's also close enough to me for me to have some sort of input on? If you can't tell, if you don't solve your own problem, then that means you have to be in a high level of constant contact with people whose problem it is, because focus on the customer or user is real business value. You cannot create an organization around what you believe is going to be nice, what you believe is going to be a nice app, because there are plenty of nice apps, nice pieces of software, nice services out there that are never going to take off because they don't have the customer at heart, at mind. So I found a problem that I personally needed to solve. I found a problem that was for me, and that was my brother's addiction problem. I felt like he could have been serviced better. I felt like everyone in his position could have been serviced better, and I couldn't find any technology that wasn't proprietary to some facility or group of facilities that would help them. And so, something that you should know, as I already said, businesses are built around problems. And secondly, the likelihood of your success in any business goes up a lot higher if you personally have the problem. And that's exactly what Airbnb did. Before I move forward, I want to read this quote from Brian Chesky, the co-founder of Airbnb. He said, instead of solving high-profile problems, try to solve something that's deeply personal to you. Ideally, if you are an ordinary person and you've just solved your problem, you might have solved the problem for millions of people. That's exactly what they did. They didn't do anything more special than solving their problems and then saying, oh, okay, well, we've got this figured out. I think other people would do this too. We just made X $100 in a weekend by allowing these people to come by and sleep on our airbeds. I'm sure that other people would like to make hundreds of dollars over the course of a weekend as well. They iterated on it, and it became the public company that it is today. So what I needed to do next after finding that problem was I needed to create a plan for the product that I needed. I said, okay, I've got a problem. This problem's going to, this problem I'm going to solve, and I'm going to solve it for more people than just I said, well, what are the steps that go into that? I broke it down. I figured out what exactly I wanted my software to do. That software was off, by the way. That plan was off, by the way. The point is to create a plan and to take the first step. You don't need to be perfect. If you ever think that you need to be perfect in business, you're probably just going to freeze, because it's impossible for you to know how to do it before you've done it. One thing I like to say is, I like to say this to like younger entrepreneurs. I'll say, you don't need to figure out how to do it right. And you don't need to figure out how to do it perfectly. You need to figure out how to do it. And once you are doing it, you can then figure out how to do it well. So I created a plan and just took the first step. That's all really anybody needs to do. Create a plan and just go. Here's some things though. Here's some things that I wish I knew when I had started. One, as I said, you have to start. Forget perfection, punch perfectionism in the face, and just go. Just get started making whatever impact you have in mind. I also wish I knew that attention is everything. You have to have a good product or service. You need to actually solve a problem for your customers. But a lot of the time, it's pretty simple. I mean, I'm a developer. I can create any piece of software. But how do people know about the software? Excuse me. Going back to the software consulting, I could create software. I've been doing it for years for multiple organizations, but how did people know? How did people know that I could create software? How were people able to build the trust with me and have me on their radar so that they could then come to me for their products? So they could then come to me to help them improve their services through technology. They couldn't, because I hadn't figured out how people will know about my product or service. It is more important than what your product or service is. You need to have a good product or else your business is going to fail. But people need to know that you have that product or else you're also going to fail. All right. And also, the idea that you have that you're probably going to blow up in less than 5 years is somewhat ridiculous. Like I said, you just need to create the plan for what you need to do, and you need to take that first step. And you need to be okay with the process of it taking as long as it needs to. I came up with the idea for SoHeart in February of 2018. I spent a full year just about after that going around to different NA and AA groups, asking the same questions. What is the hardest part of recovery for you? What are you struggling with the most? And it was only after that that I could then start to really build on the product, because I needed that time to understand what the true issues were beyond what I just thought in my own head, right? They say that the average company takes around 2 to 3 years to become profitable. And so that means most businesses are losing money for 2 to 3 years. Most people give up before that happens, and that creates the somewhat 90% failure rate for businesses. What you need to understand is if you keep going, you can make it there. If to go back to a quote I heard from Mark Zuckerberg recently, Mark Zuckerberg said, hey, we weren't doing anything special at Facebook. We were creating a social network, and there were other social networks out there at the time, but we cared more than the other people. There were larger organizations with larger budgets, larger numbers of people. Everybody could have succeeded. And there were enough issues in Facebook's lifetime to have crushed the company every single year since its inception. He said the difference maker was that he continued. He and his team cared enough about the problem to continue going, even when it didn't look like they would make any money from it. Even when it didn't look like this thing could survive, he just kept going. And so what he says is, you're going to have struggles. What you need to do is keep running through the walls and basically not give up. And running through the walls just means you need to come up against that issue, come up against that resistance, come up against that potential failure, find your way around it, or run straight into it and be hurt. But get up, dust yourself off, and continue for that next leg. That is what truly successful entrepreneurs do, is they persevere through failures. One last thing before I go on is a St. Louis entrepreneur by the name of Andy Frisella. He runs a podcast called it used to be called the MFCEO Project, but it is now called the Real AF podcast. Very good podcast, but in a recent interview, he basically talked about how he was building a company for 10 years before he ever reached any sort of success or stardom. For about 10 years, he was working on a nutrient business, and he was making little to no money. He and his co-founder were investing the money that they were making from the place back into it. And so they had ended up scaling slowly, you know, from 1 store to 2 stores to 3. But by the end of 10 years, they had 6 stores, and he was making somewhere around $800, which means he was making less than the average person who's got a 9 to 5. He could have been working less time, watching more Netflix, drinking as many tequila shots and mimosas as he wanted, but he did not. He continued to persevere for 10 years, making less than his cousins who just came out of college most likely were making. That 10 years culminated into one event where he was able to sell that GMC store, not GMC store, but that nutrient business. And boom, he popped out, started to grow his other businesses with that cash. And now he's a very successful entrepreneur. So it just goes to show it's not exactly going to happen all the time on your first go. Just like it didn't happen on my first shot for me, it probably won't happen on that first shot for you. But if you continue, if you hold the dream in you, then you can get to wherever you want to go. Let that be in entrepreneurship, let that be in relationships, let that be in any single realm that you think of. If you persevere and it becomes that important to you, then you will succeed. So the question at this point really becomes, how long can you hold your breath? Andy Frisella held his for 10 years. He was making $800 a month. Laughable by some standards. I'm sure he had friends from high school riding their Beamers past his place, thinking that he was washed up, thinking that he was nothing. He was done. There was no point for him to do what he was doing. But he continued. I'm sure that he had so many people in his family that came down on him. So many, so many different situations that made him want to quit, but he didn't. Same with Facebook. Every single year they had something that could have been do or die for the company. As soon as it became popular, there was just a string of lawsuits, a literal string of lawsuits. They made it through. They made it through not ever knowing how this thing was going to make money. For the beginning of Facebook, it wasn't obvious that ads was a big business. Definitely wasn't obvious that ads for a social media platform was a big business. They kind of pioneered that. They persisted through the years of, this isn't going to make any money, but we care about it. You need to be able to do that same thing if you want to be successful. You need to be able to hold your breath. And you need to be able to hold it for some time. Years, sometimes 10 years, sometimes 20. But that's what it takes. All right. So with that, you understand who I am. You understand what you need to do to make impact. You understand how I got started on my path to making impact. Let me now hook you up with a couple of resources that's going to, help jumpstart you as you try and get out there and start creating your own impact. I want you to go and download the slides. If you feel like these slides are of value to you, then head on over to lamarwoods.com/road to heart. And you can just quite simply just go over to the website, and you'll see there's a free resources tab that I added specifically for you guys, so that you guys could download the Road to Heart. Literally in about 2 clicks, you got the slides. I also created another resource, and that's called the 3 C's of Startup Success. It's basically an evaluation tool to help you evaluate your capacity to make a massive impact in business. There are 3 C's: customers, capital, and collaborators? How good is the problem solution fit? Basically the product. How much capital do you have? That's time and money. And how good are your collaborators? Do you have a team? Do you have an experienced team? Are you yourself experienced? These things add up to make a startup. And if you are, and I've graded each of these C's on a 1 to 5 scale. If you've got a number 5 on each of these C's, then you are in a very powerful position, and you should probably be blazing a trail into your startup success right now. You should be riding out of this presentation on your own white shining horse, right? So you can go and get that downloaded at lamarwoods.com as well, in that free resources tab. I want you to also go check out, if you're struggling to figure out how you're going to come up with your startup idea, you've already heard me talk about a little bit on a small scale how I came up with my idea. But you can also go over to my YouTube channel and search how to come up with a startup. Go over to my YouTube channel. It will be one of the more recent videos. I think I made that about 2 or 3 videos ago. And that gives a little bit more of an in-depth look at how I created the idea for SoHeart. Excuse me. With the combination of these resources, you should be not only fired up, not only informed, but you should have a full understanding of the amount of work and the undertaking that you're getting ready to get into. Because I'm not going to sugarcoat it. This is not simple and this is not easy, but it is 100% possible. 100%. Not everybody can be LeBron, but everybody can dribble the basketball. All right. Everybody can get in the game. You might not be an Elon Musk, but I guarantee you, you can create enough money with your business to support you and your family. All right. So now that you understand how you can sort of get started on your journey, I want to ask you a question. Can you see yourself making impact? Can you see yourself bringing value to the world? If anybody has an idea that they've been cooking on, then just say it. Just say yes in the comments if you have an idea that you feel you can bring to the world. If you feel like you've got something, let us know. And I want you to talk to each other, come back to the group and share what you're doing with other people, because that collaboration is extremely important. That collaboration, the mingling of ideas is extremely important. And not only is it important that you network with other people, but a lot of the people that you know already are probably going to be who end up being your first employees if you ever become successful. So keep your relationships. They are massively important. All right. So can you see yourself, 1, finding the problem, the right problem? Can you see yourself finding the solution, the right solution? Can you design an experience that bridges the gap between those two? Can you validate that problem solution fit? If you can, I believe it's possible for you to start making impact in the world in whatever way that is for you. For me, that's about freedom. But for other people, it might be through health. It might be through, there are nurses out there. It might be transportation. Everybody has their own impact that they can bring to the world. The question is, what is your impact? What excites you? And what do you want to change for the better? All right. And with that, that's it. Thank you.
Wow, I want to say thank you, Lamar. That was really powerful. I feel amped up and like I can go conquer the world now.
Thank you. Thank you. You can conquer the world for sure.
Thank you.
You got it.
So I just want to open it up and see if we have any questions. I guess a question I have is, now that you've started this journey, what has been your favorite thing that you've discovered about yourself since becoming an entrepreneur?
Favorite thing that I've discovered about myself. I would have to say that I would have to say that the thing that differentiated me as I was younger and has sort of allowed me to sort of break out now is I've got a discipline that is uncharacteristic. It's common for people to, have a certain level of discipline, but for a long time, I was a lot more disciplined than other people my age. And I'm realizing now that I'm an entrepreneur that I have to take that to the next level. I feel like I do that well, but I believe discipline is what separates average from the extraordinary, right? So there are things that I didn't used to do. Like I would have in high school, I would have friends who were like, oh, why don't you just come to this or that party? And I'm like, nah, I'm good. I'm gonna go do this instead. And it was because I was focused on the future and on building habits for the future. When my friends in college, moving on a little bit later, they were like, it's this party, it's gonna be nice, it's gonna be hot. And I'm like, I've got this thing that I need to put out for this business that I'm working with. I'd rather build this habit than build the hangout habit. As I got a little bit older, Netflix became the hot thing for people to do. That's what all the cool kids were doing. And I have binged my fair share of Netflix. I've seen tons of stuff, but I've also kept it in context. I know that there's a certain amount of time that you have to invest in where you're going in order for you to actually make any shift in your life. And discipline, I realize, has helped me get here. And I 100% believe that discipline is what's going to be the thing that takes me further. When I am that massively successful entrepreneur that's in the magazines and riding around in my Bentley with my Lamborghini doors up, probably won't be doing all that. But whenever I am massively successful, I can guarantee you that it will be because I had the discipline to do what I didn't want to do when I knew I had to do it.
Perfect.
Lamar, you sound like you're, you say discipline, and what I'm getting from that is that you're consistent, determined, and persistent. And it makes me think of two things. One is, do you have any regular planning or goal setting activities that you do? And then also, did you or do you still have a mentor? And do you participate in mentorship?
Yes. So your first question, do I have any goals? What goal setting do I do? I'll share with you this thing that I do just about every single day. Every single day, just about, and on multiple days, depending on how the day goes, I will write down my goals. And I've got this goal system that I created. And really, it just came down from, me hearing from one successful entrepreneur that he writes his goals whenever he gets disappointed. I was like, that's good. And I said, I'm going to write them when I get disappointed also. And so I started to build out what my goals are. And one thing I do is I start off this goal sheet every morning. I wake up, the first thing I do is I write my goals. The goals tell me who I am. Like, there's an affirmation as to who I am, my identity. Because one thing that not a lot of people talk about is your success is almost entirely wrapped around your identity. Who you believe you are, who you say you are, massively affects your life, because who you believe you are influences what you think. And what you think influences the way you act. And the way you act creates your entire life. It creates the outcomes that you can see in the physical universe. So this is something I'll write down every day, and I'll just go very quick here. The first thing I say is, I am a great king, ambitious, courageous, smart, kind, I recently added disciplined because of how important it is, and willing to do whatever it takes to succeed. That's like the affirmation, that's my identity statement. I know exactly who I am. And whenever I'm struggling, whenever I think that I'm not this or I'm not that, or I get disappointed, I write that sentence, that statement of who I am down. That way, whenever I start to get swayed, I am a rock. My foundation is rock solid on who I believe I am. That allows me to go out and do other things. Then on
Hey,
my list,
Lamar, just for like 2 seconds, did you
Yeah.
turn your volume back on your computer?
I did.
Maybe it's me. I'll mute.
No, I totally did turn my volume back on. And I'll put that on mute.
Okay, I just wanted, because there's like a funny feedback, and I think what you're saying is really important. I can also hear when you were talking earlier that you were like making declarations about your future, you know, that and I think that having that mindset as an entrepreneur, and then also, you know, you talking about your defining who you are. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm these things. I think that it sounds like it's really important to your kind of psychological framework and point of view. So,
Yes.
and I think you also made a good point that, you know, our thoughts inform our behaviors, and I think it also informs the way other people perceive us. And so if you are presenting yourself in that way, then you're going to be, you know, with all of that intention and affirmation and power behind it, that people are going to see that in you.
Yeah.
And I think that you did a really great job of explaining that. Did you have a mentor who taught you these things?
Yes. I've had tons of mentors. I struggle to really, and I'm going to go back on mute here. So I'm just going to mute my computer right quick so there's no feedback. Yes, I definitely had a lot of mentors. I would not say that I've had, you know, a single mentor that I'm like, oh, this guy brought down the knowledge from the heavens. If you check out some of my content, you'll realize that, you know, after 7 years, I went from person to person, professional to professional, and asked them, how do I get to that next level? What I realized was, in order for me to become who I am today, I just had to start thinking differently, and I needed to start acting differently. It is important to have mentors, because a mentor can basically cut time out of your situation. It might take you 5 years to do a thing. If the guy has already done it, then he can probably cut that, the guy or gal has already done it, then they can cut your time in half. They might be able to cut it down by 75%. But I would not say that that was a specific person that came in and, you know, stayed with me long term. I keep relationships with people who I can reach out to, but the typical idea of a mentor that you hear about online, where you can reach out to them anytime for anything, you speak to them once a month. I have never had that that specific arrangement. Maybe for like a couple month scenario, but in most of those cases, I had that the mentor that I did have was there because I could do something for them. And so it is important to search and to find a mentor. And that's a failing that I would probably say that I have right now today, is I don't spend enough time hunting for mentors, because it is a hunt. Just like you have to hunt for customers, you have to hunt for a mentor, because that experience is valuable, but it is not easy to find someone who will invest in you. That's a difficult thing to have.
Thank you. I appreciate you sharing that. I know I have personally reaped the benefits of mentorship, and it sounds like it's not been a formal process for you, and I don't think that it necessarily has to be. And I know something that is really kind of one of the pillars of our UX community, particularly here in St. Louis, is mentorship, and participating in that process of, you know, lifting up people who are new and coming along, and you know, democratizing UX for all, and making it a real community and being supportive of each other. And I think it's one thing that's really unique about our profession, or maybe less common than some other professions. That's nice. Do you have anyone that you mentor?
Not regularly, not regularly. I do have a couple of younger entrepreneurs that I speak to on a case-by-case basis, but I don't have anyone specifically who I mentor. I did, so within SoHeart, we have had stints where we have had, you know, a larger team. We've scaled up and scaled down in team. So I would say that for the interns that I brought in, that has probably been the largest aspect of mentoring that I've had. And you know, I don't have any interns in the mix now, but if ever they were to reach out, I'd always be there for them. So the answer is no, I'm not mentoring anyone right now, but it is on my list of goals that I write down every single day. I will mentor thousands of young men. And so through a combination of the content that I produce and the interactions that I have, I do plan on, by the time I leave the world, I will have had an impact on mentoring hundreds, if not the thousands that I'm shooting for. And I believe it is important to mentor, because not only is it good to just give back, but the best way to learn is to teach. The best way to get clear on ideas is to have to articulate them to someone else. And so it's a two-way street. Not only are you building trust, building connection, but you're also building your own skills and building your own knowledge every single time you teach something to someone. That's really important.
Thank you.
Say that one more time.
Oh, I just said thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
It looks like we have about 10 minutes left at the Al, am I counting right?
Yeah, I was going to go into closing it out because we only have 10 minutes left. But I do want to say, Lamar, thank you so much for speaking with us. And if you're comfortable with me sharing your slide decks, I can share the slide decks later. And I just want to say you've done an awesome job. And thank you for sharing with us your journey and all the things that you've been through to arrive to where you are today.
No problem. Thank you. Thank everyone for coming and listening to what I've got.
Yes, thank you. I'm going to launch a poll in just a second. If everyone would participate, we would really appreciate it. It only lasts for so long. I'm like new to Zoom polls, so hopefully it cooperates. I forgot to mention in the announcements about upcoming events earlier that XDT Throwdown, so the Experience Design Throwdown, since they're not able to do their live, I think they say design is a sport. So they're these really fun, interactive, competitive design events. They're doing Free Skate, which is their virtual version. And they don't have the exact date nailed down yet, but I believe they're hoping to do it between Christmas and New Year in that week. And they said that they would be announcing obviously very soon when that would be. I went to the last one and I had an absolutely fantastic time. So I would really encourage everyone. They are STLX family for sure.
Yeah, you don't have to be in the St. Louis area, and it's really a great way to kind of practice your skill set and to work with other folks that you might not have worked with before.
Yeah, and you can come solo or with a predetermined team. And it's kind of a combination of an opportunity to, you can come with an idea, or they have like a grab bag of ideas that you can choose from. So it's just a really fun experience. It can be a bit of an idea incubator, networking, skill honing, just a really good time.
Yeah, the last one was a lot of fun.
Thank you.
So we'll be posting that to the LinkedIn and also the Slack group so everyone can get on that. Okay. So I want to thank everyone for coming out. We do have memberships. So most of the things that we do are free, and the way that we keep those free, because, you know, paying for a Zoom service is not free, paying for venue space when we do meet back up and treats and snacks, those sort of things are not free. So we do have memberships, from a student membership all the way up to an annual business membership, and you would get merch, of course, with those, and discounted tickets to our paid events. And so we have 3 different tiers for those. If you are interested, you can visit at stlxmeetup.com/join, or you can reach out to Holly or I, and we can help you do that. But we would love for you to become members. And also, we would love for you to link up with us. Please, please. We love growing the community, and we love meeting new folks. Or should I say, Holly loves meeting new folks. I'm the introvert of the group, but I'll still talk to you. So hit us up, you know, let us know if you have any questions. Let us know things that you're interested in looking for. If you have an idea or topic or you want to present, let us know. Or if you have someone that you'd like to hear present, let us know. Or any sort of areas that you're wanting to hear presented on. Holly and I are really trying to have a diverse schedule for the upcoming year. So if there are any topics that you're really interested in, let us know, and we can try to find people to speak on those.
Yep, and I get an F in Zoom today. It thinks I'm logged in somewhere else, so just kidding about the poll. Or Al, can you try launching it?
I can, let me stop sharing. It lets me.
It did? Okay, good. It would not allow me to do so. I don't know where it thinks I'm logged in exactly, but yes, please. And we have I would say our Slack channel is our primary means of communication for the STLX community. There's obviously no fee to join and reap the benefits. And we just recently added a channel for resume and portfolio, either suggestions or recommendations. So I think that's a nice add to our already really robust community. And we absolutely welcome folks from outside the St. Louis area. Al teases about not liking to meet new people, but she told me she made a new friend today. So
Good.
I know that to be a lie. And I love to meet new people, so I'd be thrilled.
Or we'd love to have you in the Slack channel and the resume and portfolio review. I know you hire interns and that sort of thing. So we'd love your take on resumes and portfolios.
Mhm.
I don't see anything wrong with that. I can definitely join the Slack.
Perfect, perfect. Okay, well, thank you so much, everyone. We loved having you. We will see you again next month. We will have Dan speaking, and we will also have some design critiques as well. So please join us.
Happy holidays, everybody. Have a good one. Be safe.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great one.